Welcome to the ProLinks podcast, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals to uncover the stories behind their success, the spaces they operate in, and how they're building for the future. Real talk, real stories, and real estate all in one place. We're your hosts, Adam Lee. Andy Chia couldn't be here today, but today's guest is the Director of Business Development at the Design and Implementation Group, a company focused on interior design solutions. Andy, Lillian, and I had the pleasure of meeting Matt at Queen's Chamber event over the summer. And we absolutely hit it off. Since Lillian, Andy, and I all started out in building businesses around the interior design and construction spaces, we had a lot to talk about. And today we have the absolute honor of having him on our podcast. Matt, welcome to the show, and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your upbringings and how it has shaped who you are today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. You guys are doing great stuff here, so I really appreciate the invite. Very cool of you.
Of course.
So I grew up in a military family, so we moved around quite a bit, and that sort of forced me into this adaptability to connect with anyone, and that obviously translated to my career path, which led me to sales, and that's sort of where I landed where I'm at today.
Awesome. What do you believe is the skill? Well, you kind of answered it, but what do you believe is the skill that comes natural to you that led you to choose a career in business development and interior design?
Yeah, I think a lot of that came from what I mentioned is having this sort of in position to be able to talk with all kinds of different people from all different walks of life. And that's what I would say is my biggest strength, is to be able to connect with whoever I'm in the room with. And of course, sales I fell into out of college, but evidently in the end, it showed me that that's going to be what drives my success, in the corporate world, is using that strength to build relationships, which will last and have lasted my whole career and hopefully a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can definitely resonate the same mindset, right? We play the long game in the sense of building those deeper relationships, right? And really kind of putting, the customer, the client first, and helping them solve, the various challenges that they might be having, right? And that's how we kind of provide value. But for sure, I think I'm the same in the sense of connecting with people is definitely one of my strengths, and it's a joy to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what makes it different, because a lot of people in different career settings will feel like, we gotta connect deeper with people, but it's, sometimes it feels forced.
Yeah. And I you can tell right away usually when you're with people, and I think that's can be make or break, right?
Yeah.
Because you can see straight away if somebody's just hunting after you to make the connection and get the deal done,
Right.
and as opposed to someone who wants to learn about you and know you and connect that way, and then hopefully do business together down the road. I totally agree.
100%.
Yeah.
What do you believe most people get wrong when they think of what an interior designer does, and what would you say to set the record straight?
Yeah. It's funny because I've never in a public setting heard anybody talk about it necessarily, but design work in general is taken as aesthetic fluff and, picture frames and making the space look pretty. But there's a lot more that goes into it, because you're trying to connect the functionality with the feeling they want to invoke of the people in the space to the design work itself. And so finding that balance is a challenge, a fun one. And it heavily relies on the relationship you have with that person to truly kind of understand what their end goal is in the project.
Right.
So that's what I'd say.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when we first met, most of us have a background in interior design and construction as well. And I would say the same thing about my clients, right? Because I think a space is so it is such a valuable thing to have, in the sense of design, like a carefully articulated space. Basically can change the energy of how someone functions on a daily basis, whether it's your office or your home or anything like that. And I definitely resonate with that.
And the work that we specialize is in ADA compliant spaces. So senior living and autism centers is where we've done a lot of our work. And with those types of spaces, you really have to be intentional, because the people that are going to be spending a lot of their time there, have to feel a certain way in order to grow and to progress in their personal lives and also in their professional lives,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. The ergonomics and everything from, the sinks to the ramps and everything
Yeah.
that, to the rail bars, right? Like these things, some of us take for granted
Hmm.
because of like mobility issues or whatever it is. But I think to be mindful of that to help somebody solve those issues
Yeah.
is such a great thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So, how do you structure your company's approach in managing clients' expectations, budget, and taste?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it definitely depends on the project and client, and residential versus commercial. But the way that we do it is we like to break it into phases, right? And the first is discovery phase. We try to understand the pain points, what their end goal is at face value, right? Initially, because you start to uncover more as you go through the process. But we do it in phase work, and it starts with sort of the initial. What's the goal? What are you trying to do with the space? What are you hoping to get out of the space? What do you want the end user to get out of the space? And then start from there. And then you get into the nitty gritty of the details in the planning and how you want the space to be laid out and feel. And we play a hand in all that from start to finish, and to whatever capacity they want us to be. So we can do it from brand rollout and conception all the way
Right.
to just handling the finishes, which is also what we do, you know. But that's essentially sort of how we do the framework of the jobs is in phases and
Mm.
consistent touch points. And the goal of each touch point is to not veer from the feeling that they want to invoke in the space.
Mm.
Because like I mentioned earlier, that personally I think holds such heavy weight into what the end product, the end design looks like. And the goal is to check all those boxes with what they initially wanted through that discovery phase, trying to stay true to that.
Right.
Mhm.
Nice. So you have your checklist and you consistently make sure that you're kind of withholding those values
Yeah.
or staying true to those. And I think, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It can get challenging, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no, for sure. I think, when I was in the construction space and a lot of clients, especially during the construction period or renovation
mhm,
period, they're like super stressed out,
yeah,
right? Because you're cutting, checks that might be your annual salary,
right.
right? Like every couple of weeks or months or whatever, and it's like super stressful. and
Hmm.
and I think having someone liaise between the contractor and the engineers
Yeah,
and everything, the inspectors and everything, kind of allows them to step away from the direct stress, because how it is like
yeah.
during the whole build out phase, like everything that you guys do conceptually might not work out practically on the field, right?
Right. And with residential clients, it's a little bit more of an emotional connection to the
100%.
project.
Yeah.
So it could take a little bit longer, whereas commercial stuff is usually just like, here's the general idea we're going for. And now let's and frankly, they're a little bit more focused on
Yep.
the budget. Work
Yeah.
for those bigger projects for obvious reasons. There's ROI and contributors and investors. But with residential stuff, it's a lot more hands on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's the same thing in real estate brokerage, right? Like
Hmm.
residential sales. There's definitely a lot more sentimental value
Yeah.
in things. In commercial space, it's
Mhm.
really about numbers. Can you get it done? Can you get it done quick? And then, timing and everything.
And honestly, the good companies, the good corporations, I feel have a little bit of that residential connection. You can
Yes.
tell when they care as much as the residential would.
Yes.
That really helps the project too, because
100%.
they're more than just invested in the numbers,
Right.
and that's important, I think. And I think every company should approach the project with that in mind, because I think it'll help get to their end goal much easier.
Share with us on the state of interior renovations in New York. What are you seeing in the space and where's it headed?
Especially in Westchester right now, which is where we're based out of in White Plains, we're seeing a lot of multifamily opportunities
Mm.
come up. And still, autism centers is a really strongly growing, I guess, industry necessarily, right? Like we're
Yes.
seeing a lot more numbers in that space, so it's
Yep.
important. But as residential, for an example, the customer, I don't want to call them a customer, but the
The
partner that we're
clients.
working with, the client that we're working with, they not only want it to be functional, but they want it to feel intentional, right? It's
Mhm.
one thing to make the space look really nice, but if you pair it with some intentionality behind how you want it to flow, and like you were talking about with the chi earlier,
Right.
then that plays a big role in it, and it stretches into the hospitality space too, and the healthcare space very specifically, because not only do their spaces have to be very specific, right? Because there's tight turns, and
Yes.
there's only the machines are so big, and that plays a big role in it. So to be able to appropriately incorporate practical functionality into the aesthetics is where I see a lot of the market headed towards right now, especially with multifamily.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like juggling those two aspects is always challenging,
Yeah.
right? But I think that's why people need
Yeah.
a designer and some guidance in that sense, because you got so many factors going into play on a
hmm
project like that. But yeah.
And for example, we just had a residential project we finished, and they were lovely people, but you could tell there was a bit of a disconnect in terms of what they wanted versus what we were suggesting, right?
Mhm.
And so there was a bit of back and forth, and that's where we really have to try and push our expertise on the matter for residential, right? And the commercial clients generally, from our experience in this market, trust us with our decisions and our recommendations in residential, like I mentioned earlier, because it's a lot more of an emotional attachment to the space you're living in,
Right.
right? It's different. So, but in the end, she had sent us a really lovely, review after the fact, a direct email to all of us, just kind of saying, "Hey, I never imagined the house would end up feeling as close to like I wanted it to feel. And I know we had some disagreements, but because of your push, your gentle
Right.
nudge into what I should consider to make my space feel considered, it ended up being, well, she was like, I couldn't be more over the moon with how it worked out. And obviously we've got the same sort of testimonials for the commercial stuff, but it's less personal,
Right. Right.
and it was a nice, and then that gives the whole team a really good warm fuzzy,
A hundred
especially
percent.
because you're going through the heat of it together, you're going through the thick
Yeah.
of it together, the issues, the complaints, the changes, so it's nice in the end when it all comes together, and they say to you, thank you for helping me keep the vision clear,
Yeah.
even though we kind of butted heads a little bit at times, but not, and honestly I think that's expected
Yeah.
through any
Hundred
project. You're going to
percent.
run into that. Not
Yeah.
that, right. It's not an anomaly,
Yeah.
right? It's about navigating how to use the feedback
Yeah.
appropriately to get what they want.
There's no such thing as a perfect project, like staying within budget or
Right.
timeline. It just never happens, right? And
Yeah.
that's the reality of those things, and mistakes will happen.
Yeah.
But like I can definitely uh, relate to the compliments and the good warm fuzzy feeling at the
Mm,
end, because at the end of the day, when I was a GC,
mm,
that's what like I would remind myself of,
yeah.
right? Or before a project starts, I would envision like, hey,
Mm,
this project's gonna end up great in the
yeah.
end. We know that we're gonna run into hiccups. It just is. There's too many moving parts.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but that's what makes you tick. Yeah.
and if I could jump in
Yeah,
too
please.
again, when it comes to working as a team in the office on these projects, right? It's easy to compartmentalize because you have to in terms of job function, right? I need you to handle this, I need you to handle that. But if you try to approach each of those with a little bit of, hey, can I get everybody's involvement here on this? Then if something were to go awry, or if something doesn't match up initially, then it does still feel like a team effort. No one really kind of feels like the weight is all on them because of the
Yeah.
decision. And I think that's really important to keeping the job on time, but also effective.
Right. So we've been following you on Instagram, and your content is hilarious. Share with us the mindset behind your posts.
Thank you very much. It's a lot of fun, and I'm a bit silly, a lot silly, but it comes from a place it's a creative outlet for me, and it kind of turned into something that is growing, which is really cool to see. But I don't I always start making the content from something like, I think this idea is so good or funny,
Mm.
not from a vain sense, that because I do think I'm funny, don't get me wrong,
Yeah, yeah,
but that's the stuff that I post. Like
yeah.
if I personally like it, if others do too, that's wonderful, but it's more so my creative outlet to be my silly, goofy self, because we all live in the corporate world, and there's a time and a
100%.
place, and Instagram and TikTok are the place for me
Yeah.
and time.
No, I truly believe, like when I first started consuming your content and after I met you, um, like it's truly authentic, and it resonates with me, because I think deep down inside, you can't tell on the podcast, but like I'm super goofy and
Yeah.
silly, and I like to laugh at myself a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
And to go to your point where you said you think of yourself as funny,
Hmm.
like you have to think
Yeah.
of yourself as funny.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't,
Right.
right? You're gonna be like, oh, I'm not really funny, and try to make something funny.
Right.
That's
Right. Right.
inauthentic. You
It's
know what I
fake.
mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I really enjoy your content. I think you do
Thank
great
you.
stuff,
I
and
appreciate that.
and yeah. So you share a lot about being a husband and a father in your content,
Hmm.
and it's awesome, right? I particularly like how you incorporate humor in a lot of your videos. A lot of successful business leaders talk about integrating their family life with their work. Tell us how you approach this.
I it's it can be easier for others to some than others, but I am who I am wherever I'm at, professionally or personally. Like what you see on the social media stuff is like that's me in the
Mhm.
office, just being a goofball, right? And I think people want to see that, but they're a little nervous because of the preconceived notion about you can't really be like that. We have to be very professional, and
Right.
you know it you it toes the line sometimes, but like you and I, meeting at the event and chatting, I think we kind of got the same impression of one another that we're, fun and
Yeah.
silly and we like to have a good time. And
Yes.
that's how I go about making my content, whether it's for Dig or it's for my personal stuff or my golf page. It all comes from like well, this is who I am and this is the kind of content I make. And hopefully you can see the realness of that and relate to some of it,
Right.
right? And see that, yeah, somebody who is a high level professional is a real person. And I think people like that. I think they want to see that and they want to connect with that. And I urge all companies to get in. Like, look at this. The setup is insane and they're really doing great stuff here. And
Thank
people
you.
want to see that stuff. So I'd urge everyone to lean in, try and lean in. It might be uncomfortable at first, but you'll find your rhythm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like, with social media, we didn't really kind of start until this summer.
Mhm.
But when we first started, it was like, okay, we gotta do some marketing, we gotta
Yeah.
like
Right.
push our listings, our sales, and our projects,
Yeah.
and everything like that. But ultimately, I think what social media has kind of allowed us to do since the inception of like YouTube back
Mhm.
in '06, it's almost been 20
Yeah. It's
years, right?
crazy to think about.
Is basically allow us to document and broadcast,
Mhm.
right? And I think documentation is so important,
Yeah.
right? Because like part of me wants to look back and maybe my future grandkids or my daughter when she's an adult can look back and see what her dad did,
Yeah,
right?
I really love that, and that was an afterthought for me. But I
Yeah.
thought how great it is that my kids, when they get older, my grandkids can say, "Oh, this is what Grandpa was like. This is
Yeah.
what he was really like. This is
Yeah.
what Dad was really like, kind of on his own deal." And obviously, they know that because they're your family, right? And
Right.
that's how you are with them. But imagine being able to get that kind of an inside look to your dad when he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah.
cool that would be.
Yeah.
And so that's such a good point because I love that. That's a little cherry on top
Yeah. No,
for
for
them.
sure.
You know?
Like a part of me, like this is gonna get a little weird, but like, the futuristic side of things when I think about it, it's like, okay, like maybe our kids in the future, you know, a little morbid, but like when we pass,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
There's gonna be full-blown robots in the future, and
Yeah.
maybe they can download our personalities. And where are they gonna get that from? Well, they can go to your IG, right? And then you can have this, goofy ass, robot
Avatar,
running,
yeah.
right? Running around and,
Yeah.
just like making them feel like, hey, dad's still here,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And
Yeah, I
so
love that. I love that.
yeah. So, my next question for you is what is that one principle that you set as your highest standard
Mm.
in everything that you do, not just your career, but family and friends as well?
Um, I think that I go about life sort of giving every situation the benefit of the doubt, right? And you can translate that to somebody cutting you off in traffic or a
Mhm.
business deal that went awry or whatever that is. But if you lead with, humility and love, and it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true, right? I try to give everybody the benefit of the best intentions in what it is that they're doing, and I hope my children do the same thing,
Mm.
and I hope other business professionals do that too, because that's really how you get stuff done. Everybody, and it goes back to relating to the individual. Everybody wants to feel loved and respected and trusted. And I think if you go into the relationship or the situation with that at the forefront, only good, or at least only clarity, can come out of that, right? And
Yeah.
then you'll either know whether it's going to work out or it won't work out, but at least you're coming from a place of honesty,
Yeah.
right? So they can sound like platitudes a bit, but it's not for nothing. It's very true. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be where I'm at today, certainly not on this show with you, if I didn't lead like that.
Yeah. No, I operate on the same level
Mm.
in the sense of, like no matter how many bad things can happen to you, right? I believe life works for you,
Yeah.
right? And everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
whether it's a lesson or, and um, I had a friend that was kind of, you know, um negative all
Hmm.
the time,
Hmm.
and the way they approach it is always on the defense,
Yeah.
right? And like there's a lot of people like that, and there's nothing wrong with that in that sense, but like um for me, I feel like you're starting behind the eight ball
Yeah.
if you're looking at things from a point of view where the opportunity or relationship or whatever it may be that you're doing, and you're looking at it from like, oh, how do I defend myself in case something bad happens,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And if you kind of put yourself out there in the truest form of, as you said, love and compassion,
Hmm.
and trying to understand the other person that's across the table
Yeah.
from you, and you approach an opportunity like, hey, this is great, like w- results aside,
Yeah. Right.
whatever happens is going to be a learning experience. It's part of the journey,
100%.
right? And like I think where a lot of people get caught up is that they have this misconception of everything needs to be like linear, or
Yeah.
everything
Right.
goes up, right? But it's
Hmm.
not, and you know that,
Yeah.
right? Like life doesn't work that way.
No. And like you said, it's about consistency too. But even I started from the position that you kind of mentioned, where like early on in my life and in my career, I came from a perspective of, all right, let me prepare for the worst
Mm,
and hope for the best, right? And the people that are like that, and myself included back then, it was necessary because I feel like I was protecting myself. I felt
yes.
like, okay, at least I know if the worst happens, I'm going to be okay,
Yes.
which over time turned into, well, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
Why are we starting from a place of expecting the worst?
Right.
And so then my mind shift started to change. And it's like, how many of those times where you expected the worst did the worst happen?
Yeah.
Almost none.
Yeah.
Right. And even in the times that the worst did happen, you came out the other side. Like, it's okay. This too shall pass, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, for sure. Like it's, our brains work in a way where whatever we focus on is what you feel.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you hear the term self-fulfilling prophecy. Like,
Mhm.
so if you're constantly looking at the negatives, and I understand being protective,
Yeah.
right? But like if you go overboard and you're just focusing on these negatives, well, I find that I did the same thing in the past as well. And I'll still do it
Mhm. Right.
occasionally, and I'll catch myself and I'll kind of pull myself back. But when you like constantly focus on it, you're gonna feel all those emotions, and
Yeah.
then your actions and your body is gonna follow those exact
100%.
feelings.
Yeah.
And then that outcome is completely different because you're like, oh, see, I get to be right because it turned out exactly what I thought it
Such an
was.
ego driven
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if you can get away from that, it just makes things lighter. Life
Yeah.
feels lighter,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about hip hop and hustle
Let's
culture.
go.
From your content, I could tell that we grew up with the same taste of music.
Mhm.
For me, I believed hip hop has shaped me to be a go-getter at a young age. And I definitely tried to hide some literal yams um, at my auntie's house before. And for our viewers, the reference is Matt made a video with Young Jeezy 101. And I was dying laughing. I watched it like at least 50 times.
Thanks, man.
And so talk to us about how, music and the culture has influenced you to who you are today.
I love the question. I love talking about hip hop and being in that space. But I grew up in the 2000s, and I'd go over to my buddy's house when we were younger and watch MTV Jams right after
Yeah.
school, basically until it was time to go home. Unless we were causing trouble out in the world. But I had this nickname growing up because I started with those wraparound Sony headphones. You remember
Okay.
those?
Yes.
And then I went to big over the ear headphones. And from junior high through now, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, you would never catch me without a pair of headphones on.
Okay.
So I ended up getting this nickname in junior high, middle school called headphones. So people would be
Headphones.
like, headphones, right? Because I always had the music going. And it was always hip hop. And I just loved it. And typically it would be like I'd find, you know, and this will translate into the business side too. But I'll find a song, right, that I heard from whatever, Ghetto Boys on MTV Jams, and I'm like, oh, I love that song.
Yeah.
Then I'd go into the catalog. I would remember a specific lyric because I wanted to know the song, and the internet was different back days. We're pre-Google people, okay?
Yes.
Right. So when Google was introduced, all I had was like a snippet of a lyric, and so I would search the lyric, and I most of the time I knew the artist because of the show, the MTV Jams,
Right.
and then I would look it up, and then I'd get into the catalog, right? And when it comes to business, it's like, oh, this is kind of interesting or intriguing, or learning something new in general, right? Let me dive in. Let me get the taste. Oh, I like this part of it. Let me get a little bit more into it and see what else I might like. And that's really opened up in terms of hip hop, like the amount of artists I listen to and maybe or maybe not illegally downloaded on LimeWire.
LimeWire,
Kinda.
Napster. Yep.
But hip hop is cool, and it makes you feel grounded. And even though I was never, somebody who is a I guess, how do I want to put it? Even though I was never somebody who also portrayed what they rapped about, I felt like I did. And, growing up in Maine, it's like I felt like I had a little bit of an edge because I knew and loved hip hop, and not a lot of people where I grew up did.
Yeah.
And I also felt like that made me feel a little unique, right? Not that that was the goal, but hip hop's great, man. And I love showing my kids new music, and,
Yeah.
it helps me stay grounded.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's a trending video on Instagram, and I see a lot of people kind of replicate it, but it's usually a dad. And the caption is, at middle age, we find ourselves doing, listening to most gangster rap, doing the most ungangster shit,
Yeah.
like cleaning the living room
Yeah,
or
right.
like the dishes and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like hilarious because I do that
Me
all
too.
the time.
Me too.
And it's just it resonates with me so much that like it's just funny because when you're younger, you're listening to it, you're like, yeah, like you're driving,
Yeah,
especially if
yeah.
you're driving with like the windows
Big
down.
time.
Yeah, you're like you're thinking you're gonna do some gangster shit. I've never done anything gangster
Me
in my
either.
entire life, but I think a lot of the lyrics kind of molded me because it made me want to be an entrepreneur. Like I never did anything illegal by
Yeah.
any means, but like I would kind of mirror what I was doing to like this hustle.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna sell some
drive.
jams. And it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, right.
it was cabinets. You know what I mean? Like but I would call them jams.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny. I feel like it gave me a bit of a confidence that I might not have had if I never been into the hip hop world.
No,
And
for sure.
That was big, especially being a smaller dude. It's like,
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
100%. Okay, so my next question for you is if you could have dinner with one person who inspires you, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I think it would be really cool to end up having dinner with somebody like Jimmy Fallon. This is just on the spot, right?
Okay.
Or any of those people that grew up in the era of going through SNL and then turning into because most of them started out as comedians, and they got, SNL, and then they started doing some acting jobs. And I'd be really interested to hear about what their consistency looked like. Because we were talking about how most people think things are linear in their lives, right?
Yeah.
And it's not. It's just
No.
consistency, because there's a lot of this. And I'd be really intrigued to hear sort of what they had to say when it came to consistency, because I'm sure someone like that, they've gone through the biggest ups and the biggest downs,
Yes.
right? So that's just one example of somebody who, watching him on SNL growing up he was the guy, right? And he was a musician, and, and so like I'd love to get into the brain of somebody like that to find out sort of, how they operate, and if there's any little nuggets of information that I could take from that, right?
Yeah.
'Cause there's only so much you can. And in today's day and age, with everybody being on social media, like we never saw that 10 years ago. You never got to see someone go on a podcast like Billy Bob Thornton and talk about who he is as a person and a musician. Like I love that.
Yeah.
The access to the people that you look up to now is so much different than it used to be, and I love that.
Yeah. No, and I think It would be really interesting because I believe comedy is one of the hardest genres,
Yeah.
right? Because like you can kill it one night, like different mediums of it, right? Stand up
Hmm.
versus TV or video, medium. But like I think to be a comedian, it's really extremely hard because you're going out there and you're formulating, a storyline, and then you got to execute
Yeah.
like in a certain way, and it could bomb,
Hmm.
and you have to be able to like get back up and not let it affect you. It's kind
Yeah.
of like golf,
Yeah.
right? But
Right.
like you got to be able to kind of roll with the punches.
Hmm.
And so I think, yeah, that would be really interesting because I think like you look at like Chappelle,
Hmm.
right? I know he wasn't on SNL, but like, I love Chappelle. I think
Same.
he's one of the greatest
Genius.
comedians. He's
Yeah.
he's a genius,
Hmm.
right? And a part of it, it's hard to be a comedian because especially nowadays because y- everything is so is so opinionated because we have social media and everybody can voice their opinion, which
Yeah.
is a great thing.
Hmm.
However, you can literally get canceled now, right? The cancel culture is huge.
Yeah.
And, as a comedian, you're constantly trying to skirt that fine line.
Hmm.
And it's almost like a balancing
Yeah.
act,
It's like a
right?
dance.
It's like a dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all does translate to personal relationships and business because there's a lot of bobbing and weaving and like
Yeah.
maybe that one word or the one thing that you tried didn't work out, and same goes with a conversation or a business
Right.
email or whatever. Oh crap, I should have approached that different, and then you,
Yeah.
you learn and you adapt
Yeah.
and you
And then you
it's
just
just
keep moving forward.
it's yeah. And Chappelle is the goat, dude.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Like the Chappelle show, like I'm just so sad that
I'm so glad we got to experience it
yeah.
while it was it.
Yes.
And the fact that it went away and that whole thing really bummed me out. But I
Yeah.
guess,
But he's back and he's
yeah,
he's different, but it's
he's
a
doing his
different
thing.
age Chappelle, and
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, but
Well,
it's still good. It's
yeah,
just, his monologues are just like
insane.
genius.
I'd love to see him live. That's one that and I'm a big comedy fan,
Yeah.
so like I love seeing live guys, but he's one that I haven't seen
Yeah.
that I'd love to. He's on the list.
Yes.
Chappelle, you're on the list, man. We're gonna come see you soon.
When we first met,
Mhm.
I found out that you were a fellow golfer. I've often talked about how golf is the closest reflection of life because it teaches similar life lessons like patience, perseverance, and outcomes often mirror life's unpredictable nature. So, how did you get into golf, and what is your take on why it's such an addictive game?
I love that question. I got into golf really young at 6 years old because my
Oh,
dad played.
wow.
So he introduced me to the sport, and because he was in the Navy, he would be on deployment a lot. And when he would come home, he would want to do, of course, he'd want to do the things that he loves too. And he would bring me along. And so that's how I started getting into the game and learning it. And I always tell my wife, it's like her and the kids are here, and golf is like right underneath, but it's my true place of respite and reflection. And kind of to your point earlier, it really teaches you discipline and agility and patience.
Yeah.
And it all applies to life. And that's sort of how I came up with my like golf persona, the silent golfer, is like that's what it does for my mind. It puts me at this place where everything's kind of just silent and I can be in whatever space that I choose to be.
Mhm.
Most of the time it's just in that exact moment, in that exact shot. How do I navigate this? How do I want to hit this? How do I go about hitting this? And
Yeah.
it translates to everything.
Yeah.
And I think golf has been such a a foundation in sort of everything I do because it's practice in real life, playing a sport you love. And
Sure.
it's such a beautiful merging of the two. And I thank God that it exists, that I get to play it. I think like I don't know what I would do if tomorrow, God forbid, I couldn't play anymore. Like I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
we had something
Yeah.
similar during COVID,
Hmm.
and the COVID rules on the
Yeah.
golf course was completely bogus.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I agree with you. I mean, like it's such a, it's not just escapism.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of, I've stated this before, especially on business. Like people ask me all the time, like, oh, why do, a lot of business deals happen
Hmm.
on the golf course, right? And it's because it's one of the best mirrors of life. So like if you want to really kind of know, um, who you're trying to work with, regardless of skill level, right? Like I don't care if you're, a 30 handicapper, right? Like
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you can see how somebody's personality is based off of, the pace of play, how they
Hmm.
approach things, are they considerate to other players involved, right? um did they just walk up to the ball and whack it? Did they think about it, right? Did they get frustrated, right?
Hmm.
Like all these things are so revealing.
Yeah, 100%. It gives you so much insight into the person because everything's stripped away. There's no faking it. You either
Yeah,
hit good shots or you don't, and
yeah,
how you react to that
yeah,
tells a lot about who you are as a
right.
person. And
And
I wonder. It's so insightful you brought that up. I wonder how many other people who play golf feel that way. I would imagine a lot
yeah,
because it's the ultimate reveal.
yeah, it really is. Like integrity. Like,
Yeah,
we all know that guy that just, drops a ball from his
drives
pant
me crazy.
leg.
Oh, I found it, and you're like,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, come on, bro.
You're like, come on. And dude, and it's one of those things where it's like the integrity behind the sport is
Yes.
is how I started learning the game.
Yes.
Honesty, integrity, you be
Yeah.
right. If you didn't get it, you didn't get it. There's always going to be more golf to play.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been life. There's always going to be more opportunities, more conversations. So it's like, do what you need to do and move on, good or bad. And how you do it really does tell a lot about
100%.
how you operate.
It's the only sport that you ref yourself,
Oh, I love that.
right?
I
Like,
love that. It's about to be my time. Oh, speaking of which, you see my golf
oh,
tattoo?
wow, that's dope.
Yeah, so I
I
got
love
this a
that.
while ago because
I
I was
love
like, I
that.
want to do something. And the people who know are like, this is cool. And some people are like, why do you have a nail on your arm?
Yeah.
You in construction? I'm like, no, that's not. Different nail. Different kind of nail.
Different nail. I have a bunch of those nails that drop out of my pocket every single time because it's like in every single like of my pants. Because I'll wear my like now I just buy shoes that are golf shoes, but
Mm,
like street shoes,
yeah,
right?
right.
And then like all my professional pants are like breathable golf
Yeah.
pants. Like everything's just integrated
I
into
could
golf.
immediately go to the golf course
Yeah,
from the
100%.
office.
And that's the mentality.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, what? You got a tee time? No problem.
Great,
I'll
I'm
be
there.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And I wanted to keep this a bit of a surprise to show you, but
Okay.
I'm designing this golf tool.
Oh,
Okay. It took
okay.
me over a year,
Love
but I'm
it.
launching it with Head Golf at the PGA show in January. So it's a single
Wow.
prong divot tool. So if you
Let's see.
see, if you engage it, it'll pop out the front. So go ahead, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then it'll slide back in. And so that back rectangle is a golf ball marker, but I'm very excited about that. And I
Very
just wanted to
nice.
show that to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. First little sneak peek.
I can't wait. Like
Thank
you're gonna be at the PGA show in January,
January.
down in Orlando.
Mhm.
I've always tried to go
Yeah.
every year, but like it just never ends
It's
up
hard to go
making
because
it,
it's
but-
an industry show, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to be involved in the business side of it somehow to
Yeah.
go. But I do know last year, it might have been 2 years ago, they opened up for like social media folks to come and like see what get the inside scoop.
Yeah.
So I know that they do let some I guess non-corporate
Yeah,
golf world people in. So
Right.
I'm really excited. It's my first time going. I'm very hyped.
Congratulations.
Thank
on
you, man.
that.
Yeah.
What are you gonna call it if you can reveal that?
I've been workshopping names. I don't have anything that I was thinking, like nothing is stuck, but this is sort of going to accompany it. That's a ball marker. So
Okay. So that's a
that
magnet
I
piece
call
that
the
attaches
puddle.
to the end.
That one doesn't attach. So that one's just sort of an
Okay.
additional. So this one has one attached, but I wanted to do that for fun as like an inclusion there.
Are you gonna throw a logo on it or?
If people want it,
Yeah.
but those will be plain. And I call that one the puddle. I just freeformed the shape and then took the design off that.
I love it.
So thanks.
Very nice.
Yeah, thanks.
If there was one character trait you can instill into your children, what would it be?
One character trait. Be truthful, right? Good or bad. Be true. I always tell my daughter too. It's like, I just want to know what the truth is, right? And then we can go from there, right? If you start from a place of dishonesty, everything gets muddied, and the further you move forward after the initial dishonesty, everything gets worse. And I know we've all experienced that in our lives where you start with a lie and we've all done it and then it just exacerbates into something
Yeah.
terrible. So it's like just start from a place of truthfulness and things will be more clear for
Yeah.
everyone involved. And it may hurt some people, right? Don't be mean for mean's sake,
Right.
but be truthful for the sake of truthfulness, and that'll take you much further in life than trying to manipulate the system,
Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think honesty is really the foundation of any relationship,
Yeah.
right? Because once trust is broken, it's very difficult. And obviously, kids are gonna be kids, right? Like
Yeah.
we can teach them that, but they're gonna lie, right?
They're
They
gonna
want
bend the
they're gonna
rules.
bend a little bit because they don't want mommy and daddy to be upset, or
Yeah.
and you know, yeah, I think again it goes back to
And
the
from
foundation.
the fatherhood perspective, it's really interesting to see them work it out on their own. Because like sometimes they know it's wrong
Yeah,
and they still do it, just like we
yeah,
all do, right?
yeah,
And then it turns into a teaching thing, and it's just cool. Being a dad is the coolest thing,
yeah.
you know?
No, it's absolutely awesome,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes like my daughter will do something that she knows she's, like you said, that she's not supposed to do, but
Hmm.
like it's almost like a discovery mode where I don't falter for it, or I don't get super upset,
Hmm.
because I'm just like, all right, you're trying to see where the boundaries are. You're trying to see where the limits are. And I like that because that curiosity allows you, to translate in your adulthood
Hmm.
to see what you're capable of,
Yeah.
and how certain things are. And I think a lot of successful people are like that. They're
Hmm.
always curious.
Yeah.
And not to say, hey, go break the rules,
Yeah.
right? But like to kind of to see where certain limits are,
Yeah.
right? Because otherwise, if you don't know where those are, you don't know how far you can really go, right?
Yeah. And
So
I forget where I saw it, but I had seen something to the effect of like, in order to master something, you have to kind of know both sides of it, right? So, in order to know what it's like to be really truthful all the time, you have to know what lying is like. And so, it is really weird because it's like sometimes there's behaviors where you're like, that's not good.
yeah,
Don't do that. And then hopefully you catch yourself and you go, what are they're figuring it out, and they're 4, 6, whatever, right?
yeah,
It's like they don't necessarily know yet. So, it's a big like, who am I as a person? And it's them figuring it out. So I struggle with the stopping it immediately because we're trained, right? It's like bad behavior.
right,
Let's not do that. Let's do something better. But I think you made a good point. It's important for them, for us to see how they're managing that situation and acting in that situation,
yeah,
and then using it as like a praise moment,
yeah,
because there's going to be both, right? Well, picking out the good and praising the good
yes,
and showing, all right, and here's why we don't do the bad, right?
right,
But let them play it out and not punish them for it. And
right,
that's being transparent. That's something that I have to work on because
yeah,
I'm quick to correct,
yeah.
and
No, I think a lot of parents are like that, right?
yeah,
Like especially now, like every generation is different. Our parents might have, my parents might have taken a belt and beat
yeah,
my ass with it, right? But
yeah,
like I would never do that now. But
right,
like, but we're also in a different, a different, I guess, a different atmosphere, a different
mhm,
lifestyle,
yeah,
right? And now it's like, as a parent, you want to be quick. You like your first gut instinct is to like save them,
yeah,
is to say, hey, no, let's correct, let's do this, right?
protect,
But
yeah,
that's, in a way, it's like a little bit, for me, my perspective is it's you're doing a disservice,
yeah,
right? Because you got to let the kids kind of play out and learn and make those mistakes, and
mhm,
then learn from it. But
yeah,
if you're just constantly like on top of it,
yeah,
it doesn't give them enough exposure. And so like there was this quote where, I believe this as a young adult before I had my daughter.
mhm,
But I always felt like, oh, I'm going to work really hard so I could provide this life that I never had for my daughter.
mhm,
And when you get to that point, you feel like, wait a second, like, you want to give, your instinct is like, okay, I worked really hard. I want to give them everything I didn't have.
mhm,
Right. And then it, I made a shift, a few years ago where I felt like, okay, that no longer serves our family,
mhm,
because that's actually a disservice, right? For me, it's more of like teach them what you were never taught,
yeah,
because everything else that is good that you have accumulated through experience in life will kind of naturally kind of flow into them, because
mhm,
they're learning from your
yeah,
actions.
right,
But like the things that you were never taught, or you never got exposure and experience for, share that more
yeah,
than just saying, hey, here's that
yeah,
awesome Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle van that you wanted,
yeah, right.
right? Like,
And I think you touched on it earlier, right? But it's like you write your own script. If you you think bad things are going to happen, you operate from that, then bad things are probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you operate from a good place and good things are going to happen, good things are going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
And as a dad, I'm sure you'll relate to this too. It's like we see our parents and ourselves, right? And I go, oh, this is good. This stuff is really good for my mom and dad. I'm going to keep that going. And then
Yeah.
you'll catch yourself going, oh, that's maybe some stuff that I don't want to do, right? But it's there. And furthermore, I think it's given me a lot more grace for my parents.
Yes.
And I saw somebody post something like, remember, it's their first time living too.
Yeah.
And you forget that because they're these idols in your mind growing up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it was also their first time being parents. It's their first time being 60, 70 something, and that threw me some crazy perspective
Yeah.
to kind of really forgive them for the things that I didn't love, right? And I love
Yeah.
my parents. They're great,
Yeah.
and
No, they
but
did their best.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just an eye-opening moment for me to be like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
Yeah.
And two, to see how my daughter, responds to those things, I'll go, "Oh man, that was me.
Yeah.
That was me." Like I can see it,
Yeah.
which is real. I get goosebumps now even talking about it because I'm like, "That's totally me. This is what my mom or dad did or said, which I loved or didn't like. Let me,
Yeah.
adjust." And
Yeah.
it's cool, man. It's like the coolest
Yeah.
job. I don't want to call it a job, but it's like this cool other adventure that's going on in the background outside of the social media and the business world that most people don't see, but parents all relate to,
Yeah.
you know?
No, for sure. And like like back to what you were saying in terms of your parents, like you don't really think about this stuff until you become a parent, right? Because as a kid, you go through different stages of how you view your
Yeah.
parents, right? And like, when you're super young, you think your dad or your mom, like especially your dad, probably like you think he's a superhero.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's like a period of time when you're like a teenager and you're like, Dad, you're full of shit.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like, right.
Well,
And
this is
then-
bullshit. Yeah.
right. Right. Like, and then you go through these phases and then you appreciate them. And then, as adults now with, as parents, you're thinking back, okay, like you said, these are the good things I got from parents. These are not so great things,
Mhm.
but you know, um, they did their best in that sort of time because
Yeah.
like the world was a very different place
Totally.
back then. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of different things that we try to understand, but we'll never fully understand because we didn't experience
Right.
it, right? And so like so many different culture shifts and things that kind of for me, I feel like I found myself in this middle age to kind of reevaluate what sort of beliefs I had in
Mhm.
myself and
Yeah.
where did they come from,
Yeah.
right? And to kind of like look at the negatives and break that chain
Mhm.
because a lot of these things are just automatic and we just don't realize it if we're not really looking for it
Yeah.
or conscious of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to break that the chain where I feel like, okay, this is not something I want to pass down to the
Yeah,
next
right.
generation, right?
Totally.
And
I
so
100% agree.
I agree with you. Being a dad is probably the best thing like
Yeah.
ever, right?
And it helps you grow in all aspects of your life.
100%.
It humbles you. It makes you proud. It makes you scared.
100%. And it gives you purpose. It gives you so many different things that, to think that at one point of your life you didn't have them.
Yeah.
It's like it's
a gift, dude. It's a gift.
is.
It's a gift.
100%.
Yeah.
So Matt, this part of the show, we're gonna go off the cuff.
Let's do it.
I have these random deck of cards that we do with our guests. I'm gonna pull 2 questions.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna just randomly pull one.
Okay.
And
I'm excited.
I'm gonna
Let's
read
see.
it.
Let's see what we
Okay,
got.
Ready?
All right.
Let's see it. Wow.
You hit me.
I literally pulled the card from our practice round.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Okay, go ahead.
So if you could talk to someone from your past, who would it be and what would you say?
From your past. I'd probably talk to younger me if I could, right?
Mm.
And just reiterate everything's going to be okay. Not that it ever wasn't. It's a weird thing, right? Because if you could meet your younger self, right?
Yeah.
You want to tell them all these things, maybe help them in life, but just reiterate the fact that it's all going to be okay, even in those worst times, right? Like you're going to get through it. Everything's going to work out, good or bad. Life's beautiful. Get ready for it. Try to be, I'd remind myself to try your best to be in the present in every moment, right?
Mm.
We're so worried about, oh man, we've all had that shower conversation where it's like you replay that conversation from 20 years
Yes.
ago that you whatever, or like, oh, I'm so worried about the future and what's going to happen with the house and what's going to happen, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I think being able to talk to your younger self to say, just go with it, right? Like do what you can, right?
Right.
And just understand that it will work out, right? For good or bad, but you're gonna live. It's gonna be okay.
I love
You
that.
know?
And I love that you didn't say like I would go back and be like, tell myself buy some Bitcoin, Apple, and
No.
Amazon. Right?
I feel like that would cause a ridiculous butterfly effect and screw everyone.
Yeah. But I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna pull the next question.
Hit me.
What is an idea you wish people understood on a deeper level?
Ooh. What's an idea I wish people understood on a deeper level?
Take your time.
Yeah. I wish that people understood on a deeper level. I'm a proponent of everyone is good. Everyone is coming from a place of good, right? I wish people would understand that on a deeper level because we all want to be, right? Which
Yeah.
makes me think that we all are in every decision we make. And it just goes back to what I was saying earlier about like give people the benefit of the doubt because
Right.
you never I hate cliches, but
Yeah.
they're so applicable, right? It's like you never know what somebody's going through. We've all got our shit that we're dealing with, right? And if you go about life like that, giving people a lot more rope, right? It's just going to make your life better.
Yeah.
That's probably it. I know I'm regurgitating, but
No, that's what
it's
you
true.
deeply
It's true,
believe in.
It's like go from that space.
Yeah.
Your life will change.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, like, what comes to mind is like, so I've never been there, but I want to go there. But everything that we see, like, do you remember when Matsuyama won the Masters?
Yeah.
And his caddy like bowed.
Dude, I get goosebumps just
Yeah.
talking about it, dude. Oh.
Yeah. And it's like you hear about like even like the Japanese players of different sports when they show up, over here, like they leave the locker rooms better than what they came in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like a cultural thing. And
Mhm.
it's such a like when I hear about these stories and I see this these values being played out in real life, like for me, I'm just so inspired by it.
Same.
Right. And so that's what it reminds me of, right? Because ultimately, it's about honor and being, positive and just responsible for not only yourself, but those around you and
Yeah.
the spaces that you enter.
Mhm.
Right. And I truly love that mindset.
Same.
Uh,
And you can tell like again, like when I watched that on TV, I was like, he's doing that for him.
Yeah.
That's real. Like that's not for
Yeah, that's not for
that's
show.
not for who he was caddying for. It wasn't for anybody watching. That was him genuinely being like, this was incredible. Thank you. Just a general thank
Yeah.
you to the universe, to the course, to whatever for letting me experience this. I love that. That's how I want to do my relationships. It's like, however fleeting, just your time. I don't want to take it for granted. All right, I'm gonna draw you one now.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's do it.
I'm gonna get one. You got me. Let me get you. Okay,
Let's
ready?
do it.
Let's see what I pull here.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, I really like this one. Okay, this says, what would you say to the version of you who was at their lowest?
Mm, that's a good one.
I love that.
I'm gonna go with a similar answer.
Yeah.
To what you said. But I'll say this, right? I would say the lowest version of me felt, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And there was a ton of emotions that went on because, I think I was just trying to juggle everything at once.
Mhm.
And at that point, I was just worried about, hey, am I going to get through this?
Mhm.
And I would say to myself that, yes, you're absolutely going to get
Yeah.
through this, right? Because you can always reinvent yourself. And at the end of the day, life happens for you,
Mhm.
right? Or life happens for you, not to you,
Mhm.
right? And this is ultimately a good thing, right? How do you go from a space where you're just looking at this as the best opportunity of all time
Mm,
and kind of flip the whole situation on its head. And with that mindset, it would shift me to believe that everything was going to be okay. And how do I extract not the feelings from it, but what the lessons would be?
mm,
Because it's ultimately going to make me a better person.
yeah.
And if I can truly instill that belief in me, because I feel like that's how I've gotten through so many things
Mm,
before, it has made me into a better person, not only for myself, but for my family, for my friends, and
yeah.
anybody that I interact with. And that is the ultimate value
Yeah.
of who you become.
I love that. And I just, as we were hearing your response, I was thinking to myself, like, how great would it be to tell yourself in the moments, like, hey, the grass is green where you're at right now, and yeah, it's burning up, right?
Yeah.
And the other side might look brown. The other side of the fence, the grass may not be greener, but if you end up over there, you can water it.
Yeah,
You know, you can make it green. You know,
for sure.
I love the idea of that because there's light at the end of the tunnel. More cliches. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
100%.
Yeah.
So they say creativity is stifled at a young age due to several factors, including overemphasis on standardized testing that prioritizes rote learning over creative thinking, and a culture that discourages mistakes and penalizes nonconformity.
Mm.
As a creative yourself, what can you teach your children on how to cultivate and grow creative thinking in their lives?
I'd say start with the spirit of creativity and use the lessons from the framework to sort of help you navigate the creativity, whatever that creativity looks like. You hear about people, oh, I used to love to draw when I was a kid, and then you get into the system and you stop drawing, and then you're middle aged and you start drawing again, and you're like, why did I ever stop that, right?
Right.
So I think however you continue to keep it a part of your life, it doesn't have to go away altogether, right? So it's like, however small, keep the flame lit if you can, and find your moments to have that creativity. It might be late, it might be super early, it might be in the middle of the day, and you're like, I have this feeling, I have this idea to do something creative. So give yourself the time and space to continue to let that be a part of your life is probably where I'd try to. I mean, that's such a good question, right? Because you're in the system and you're like, I can't get these questions wrong. I have to be quiet in class. I have to,
Yeah.
and I remind myself of that when my kids are being loud and crazy in the house. They say, like, if your kids are loud and crazy in the house, then you're doing something right. You're letting them feel like they can be themselves.
Right.
So trying not to quelch that is
Yeah.
important. How would you answer that?
Yeah. I mean, I would say very similar. Like there was this, quote from Kanye that said, kids are operating at a genius level up until like they get to school. Right. And it's so true to where you can let them, the world is going to tell you like no
Hmm.
a million times, right? Especially as an adult. So the majority of your life, you're going to be told no and you have to conform. Otherwise, you're not going to get what you
Right.
want. Right. And so that first 5, 6 years or
Hmm.
even adulthood, like, it's such a small window of period of time. And if you stunt that exploration, that expression,
Yeah.
like it really, for me, I feel like it kills that inner child in you, like
Hmm.
at an early age. And then it creates something really complicated as an adult because that's what we're battling with, right? Our inner child. Like a
Yeah.
lot of the things that we spoke about with our parents and, trying to figure out the different things that we liked or we didn't like that
Hmm.
might serve us, might not serve us.
Yeah.
That's really us trying to talk to our inner child.
Man, that's so good.
Right. And it's like, that's where I'm constantly questioning or kind of evaluating like, hey, like, how did I become this way?
Yeah.
And it was because I was restricted in some way, shape, or form. Now,
Hmm.
how do I bring it back?
Yeah.
Because, what I said to you when you walked through the door and I was like, listen, we're gonna have a great time because I feel like I'm 16 all the time
Yeah, me
inside,
too,
stuck
man. Me
inside
too.
like, a 40-year-old body,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
like I feel like I'll always feel like that.
Same.
And I love it. Like I
Yeah.
don't want that to change.
Yeah.
You know, like we can all become wiser,
Hmm.
but like to kill off that spirit of like the playfulness, like I feel like that's the secret sauce
Totally.
to like living a fulfilled and enjoyable life,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, man, you nailed it. That's so true, right? You want to be able to give yourself a hug and be like, keep going, man.
Yeah.
Keep doing the stuff you love.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, like now it just kind of came back, but
Yeah.
like Mel Robbins, I don't know if you
Yeah,
follow
yeah, I do.
Mel
Yeah.
Robbins, she has the high five method
Mhm.
in the mirror. Like I started doing that a few years
Yeah.
ago. And like to go back to the question where you pulled the card
Mhm.
and to say like what would you tell yourself in the lowest moments, those are the practices that you do because like when you high five yourself it really does like neurotransmit like a feeling of like hey good job buddy, like
Yeah.
you're okay, keep going, you
Well,
know.
and it's like what you said earlier. You have to be your own cheerleader first.
100%.
That was the hardest thing for me to start learning because I'm a people pleaser, right? You want to make your
Yes.
parents happy, you want to make the teachers happy. You kind of lose the initial drive of like, well, what about my happiness? Why am I serving all these other people so I don't get in trouble, so that I do the
Yes.
right thing? It's like, yeah, that stuff's important, and it does get lost so easily,
Yes.
right? So, man, that was good.
Yeah.
I love
No,
that.
that was great.
This guy, dude.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh. I it goes back to yeah, maybe it's the giving the people the benefit of the doubt or the fact that remember that everybody's living their life for the first time, and that coincides with giving them some grace, right? So, people you're not going to please everybody, right? And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, which is why it's so important to make sure that you're happy first,
Yeah.
right? And then you can help others, right? So, it's a short answer, but
No, I love it.
that's how I feel.
Matt, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you coming out here
Thank you.
and do this with us. Thank you for sharing your journey and insights. But before we go, we have one last question. If you could leave one message to the world, what would it be?
I'd probably tell everyone to act with compassion, think with compassion and humility. I think that's really the key. And if religion isn't a part of your life, I think everybody should try and get a relationship with God, with Jesus, whoever it is that you are close with. But compassion, benefit of the doubt, humility is probably what I want everybody to tell everybody to continue or start now to lead their lives with.
To close it all out, please let our viewers know where they can find you, your Instagram handles, websites, etc.
Yeah, you can search us up on Google, Design Implementation Group. That's us. We're based out of White Plains. Our Instagram is Dig Design Implementation Group, so you can find us there too. And my social media stuff, I guess too, I'm Ambiguous Matt on TikTok, Mr. Matt Martinez on Instagram, and then The Silent Golfer is my golf stuff. So, and thank you so much for having me on the show. This was such a blast. I really enjoyed the time, and thank you to you, man, for being a part of this and everybody involved. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.